Hello, and welcome to Lab Assignment and Solution CIT-08-L4, Analyzing Firmware. This is part of the Industrial Internet of Things and ICS. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to learn how to analyze firmware and emulate it. We will use binwalk and strings to understand what types of image that firmware is, and then use Qemu or Qemulate to emulate it. This lab is estimated to take 30 to 35 minutes. And our requirements, we should have a basic understanding of firmware and a knowledge of Unix commands. As far as resources, we need a VirtualBox, and we also need Ubuntu, which you see here. And we will configure Qemu and binwalk. And we also have some extra lab files, this OpenWRT, that you can download from the Canvas site. And of course, there's more context and background in the textbook references in Chapter 8. Okay, let's get started. So it says start your pfSense machine, which I already have started because this is a continuation of a previous lab. It says start my Ubuntu machine, which I also have already started. And it says right-click anywhere on the desktop and create a new folder. And we're going to call this new folder Firmware Forensics. Okay, once I do that successfully, I have my Ubuntu machine. The desktop looks very similar to page 3. I have John, Trash, and Firmware Forensics. It says double-click the folder to open it. I double-clicked it. And now it says drag and drop the OpenWRT file. Now I have that on my host machine. I need to get to my host machine, so I'll show you how I get there. I'm on a Mac, so it's in my Downloads folder. And in my Downloads folder, I have a file called OpenWRT, which is this one here. I'm going to click and drag that. Well, let's see what's going on here. Do I have drag and drop? Well, that would explain it. I have guest editions installed on this device, but I don't have it enabled. So let's just go back to the folder, Downloads folder. And we don't want to do that. So let's go to our Downloads folder. And this time, when I click and drag, I get the plus sign. And I now have my OpenWRT into my desktop folder. Okay, now, in this part it says start my Ubuntu machine, click Activities, and go to Terminal. So I can go ahead and do this. This is step 5. And in step 5, I'm going to go to Terminal. Now, clearly at this point, there's a variety of ways you can open your terminal session. I don't need this, so I'm going to close my desktop. I can always open it at another point. Widen this a bit so we can have some more real estate. And go right ahead, and it says to install. I'm on step 6. Install the emulator, Qemu. So it's sudo apt install Qemu -y. And of course, I'm prompted for my password. I put in the default password, and this is great. It's installing. That process didn't take too long, so this was the first step. Let's just take a quick peek in here. So I installed Qemu. Now I'm going to just basically cheat a little bit. Right-click these files and then paste, so that way I don't have to type as much. Let's see if that's going to even let me do that. In this case here, I'm going to just type it in. My PDF is set in highlight mode, and I don't want to stop the recording. Sudo apt install. What's wrong with this? And we have the wrong tick in there. And then I'm going to page 6 and wait to process step 8 after this package is installed. Okay, so that took about 30 seconds or so. Now it says to install the full system emulation binaries. We run the command that we just ran here, which is the full system. But there's a couple of other systems or emulation binaries we may want to install. Now these will probably be already installed, but let's just go ahead and see what that looks like. So for this one here, I have Qemu system -arm -y. And it says this one is already the newest version, so no need to worry about it. So it wasn't upgraded, nothing was installed, and nothing was removed. But let's go ahead to step 9. We'll do the same thing, but with the common binaries. Same deal here, it was already installed. Let's go into the MIPS in step 10. MIPS is fine. Let's go to PPC. Okay, PPC is fine. In this case here, now we're going to install the user mode. Slightly different command. So it's sudo apt install qemu -user. Okay, that took about 30 seconds as well. Now we're going to q-user-static. And this is step 13 on page 7. That took about 30 seconds as well. So that was what was my last command here. Let me just make sure that's fine in terms of my last command. So I did the user static. I need to put in the utilities. So let's go ahead and sudo apt install qemu utils -y. It says it was already installed. And in this case here, now we're going to install the binwalk, or the binary walker, and it's -y binwalk. Let's see if this makes sense. Sudo apt install -y. I'm going to just get rid of these pop-ups. Please disregard. Okay, that took about 45 seconds. And we have everything installed for the first task. So we're in pretty good shape here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the desktop. So I'm going to cd:/desktop, and we're going into the firmware folder. And let's just clear the screen so it can look a little bit more like what you see there. So now we are in step 1 of lab task 2 on page 8. And it says here, use binwalk to identify the firmware's file image. So we're going to type binwalk. That's the command. And first, let's just take a look at what's in the file here. You see it, we have this open WRT, which we copied in a previous task. We're just going to open that file to take a quick examination of it. So binwalk, open, and we're just going to walk this file to take a look. That this looks like it's a kernel image. And we discussed entropy in class. Now in this case here, we also now want to take a look at this graph of what the file looks like. So I'm going to type binwalk again, all lowercase. Unix is a case-sensitive operating system. Open. And it says it can't find that because I made a quick mistake in my typo here. And let's just do the binwalk. Before I do that, let me just show you binwalk. If you look at some of the commands, I just did binwalk, no help, and it says uppercase E is entropy. So I'm going to go back here, follow the command in step 3, binwalk E, and we're going to follow this file, and we get the same graph that you see here. So essentially it's flatlined. Now for comparison purposes, on step 4, it says check the entropy of the ls command by running binwalk -e on the ls command. So I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to open a new tab so we can have compare and contrast, if you will. And I'm going to type binwalk entropy bin ls and see what that looks like. And it helps if I type binwalk. And now I have a graph that looks a little bit more like the one on page 10, almost exact. So in step 5, we're going to use the string tool to extract strings from the file. And we want to see what those strings look like. So once again, I'm going to open another tab, and we're going to use strings command. In this case here, it's a count, so we just want to get 10. And we're going to open the openwrt file and see what that looks like. And then we get a collection of random characters here. Compare and contrast that as well. Let's go back to, I'll just open another tab just to keep things clean. I'm going back to strings. And in this case here, we're going to run that on the ls command so we can see what that looks like. And that looks a little bit more structured. So it says, based on the results regarding the firmware file in the previous step, is it compressed or encrypted? Based on the gibberish that we received, it appears to be encrypted or compressed. So this is step 7. And then we're going to actually go ahead and take a look at extracting the files. So I'm in the binwalk folder. I'm going to sudo binwalk uppercase M, E, and open this file. And the M is recursively, so it's going to create a folder tree if need be, and also automatically extracts the file. So we'll go ahead and do that. Because I did the sudo command, I'm prompted for my password. That just took a few seconds. So I'm going to clear my screen to bring things back on top. And what you see here is that we have now 2 folders. Let's just do ls long. So what you see here is we have 2 folders. We have the regular folder that we copied from our downloads folder. And now we just used binwalk to extract it. And we have a folder in the _openwrt. So now it says in this command, we're going to cd into that command. So we can see into that folder, and there will ls again, and we see we have a series of other folders. We're going to cd to the _3d extracted file, and we see a whole bunch of files here. We're going to run the ls command, which we did in step 10, and we can see all the different files in there, but this sample shows that it looks like a single directory. Okay, I'm going to clear the screen. Now in this case here, it says we need to be in this folder. So you see in the CD, I need to get back into my present working directory is this long string here. I need to get back to my desktop firmware folder. As you can see here, CD, step 11. And then we need to write this string. Now, rather than spend a lot of time here actually writing this string, I have it copied and pasted, and I'll put it into the show notes. And I just want to explain a little bit about it. So I have it in a text file already. Now, let's just take a quick look at what this file is. So essentially, it's this Qemu system. And where it asked me for the kernel image, I put in our openwrt file. And then I put all these different parameters in here. No reboot, no device, no graphic, so on and so forth. So if I just copy and paste all of this, I copy and paste, then when I hit enter, my screen looks very similar to page 14, which it says I have no peer, so I'm going to let it emulate that software. It's as if we were running the software on a hardware device, or the firmware, and actually running the firmware. So that took about a minute, and it says after 1 minute you get to this screen here. It's not obvious what to do next, but we are at the end. You just hit enter, and then you are now into the firmware. Now this is just a regular prompt, so I can hit clear to just get to the top, but I'm in the open WRT and I'm logged in as root, as you can see here. Now in this case here, we're just going to run the IP command because I'm in the firmware shell, and I can see that I can run some basic commands. I get the IP address. Then I can also run some other basic Unix commands. So I can cat, Linux commands I should say, shadow, so we can see the file. And then I'm looking at the root, and I see the root here, and we'll compare and contrast this, but essentially it tells me that there's no password set. So in step 15, I click Firefox to start up a web browser. And let's just let that get started. And then we're going to go into localhost. $8080 to try and open a web server. And that's not what I was looking to do. I want $8080. So localhost $8080, and I see that the connection was reset. So I need to go back into my terminal session, which it says here in the emulation environment 17. And I want to make sure I'm in open WRT, not just any terminal session. And then we're going to stop the firewall. So I'm going to go to the etc folder, init.d, firewall, stop. Now it just flushed some IPv4 filter tables. And now if I go back to Firefox and I reload, because the firewall was relaxed, I can get into this web page. Now it tells us to log in and enter the username root without a password, because we know it didn't have a password. We go in, we can log in, and it says go to password configuration, which is this link here. And then we're going to put in a new password. I'm going to use the default classroom password just to make things simple. And down here it says click save and apply. I don't want to save this into my browser, and I also don't want to save the password. Now it says that the password has been applied. I saw that on the prompt. It says it may take up to 30 seconds to apply the new settings. I'm going to go back, and if you notice here, you see how my root looks like this. The root section here, these two. Let's go ahead and I'm going to run the cat etc shadow program again. And now you notice that a password has been set. That takes me to the end of this screen, and it takes me to the end of this exercise. I hope you found this useful. Looking forward to seeing you at the next one.